What's a good word, everyone? It's your boy DKB here. I just want to say thanks for all the support. The channel's been steadily growing, and the number you see below, you can drop a text, shoot a voicemail, any ideas, topics, collabs, etc. you guys want to see. I'll include them in future videos and live streams, and I'll catch you again. Be easy. What's a good word, Jets fans? It's your boy DKB here, and I talked about this a couple weeks ago about the idea of Mike Tannenbaum or Rick Spielman joining the Jets front office, and it's finally happened. Rick Spielman joining as a senior football advisor. I believe it's the title he mentioned on kind of his CBS, goodbye podcast show today. But ultimately, this is huge news for the Jets, right? You're talking about 30 plus years of front office experience that the Jets are now going to be able to rely on to bounce these ideas off. Pretty much anybody that's already been established, or even in certain cases, guys that are up and comers, I would imagine Rick Spielman should have some level of knowledge of, right? Or personal experiences to go off of. And I'm probably certain he can tie those to real life events about how they may handle situations that come up, what work ethic looks like, right? So this is an absolutely huge deal for the Jets. Now, part of the show, he mentioned a couple different topics. He touched on a couple different topics here in terms of what will his senior football advisor role actually include, right? Now, one thing he made absolutely clear is that he's strictly there to assist Aaron Glenn, assist Darren Mougey with their ability to make decisions, but they are the final decision maker. Rick Spielman won't be doing any hiring of any sort. Is effectively just think of advice and recommendations, right? And then, of course, you have him as a sounding board, as he called it, for various events that may come up, how he would have handled it, how he's seen things be handled before, and what's the good, the bad, and the ugly of a lot of these situations, right? And it's just so key for this New York Jets, especially with all the youth that we brought in at various levels, guys that are first timers at their job and stuff. This is going to be a golden opportunity for these guys to effectively get, personally groomed, if you will, by Rick Spielman. One of the things that he mentioned as his number one priority right now is rebuilding the football operations, right? We've talked about needing that figurehead. And while he doesn't have the official title of like a director of football operations or something of that sort, it's essentially the role he's playing, right? We still need to find our Chad Alexander, Rex Hogan replacements. I imagine Darren Mougey will still want to make more changes to the staff, and whether he thinks that's more reasonable before the draft or after, it's something that's going to be on the top of his mind, no doubt. So it's a huge bonus for us, right? I know he mentioned he's going to be spending time with his brother Chris Spielman over the weekend, so maybe they bounce some ideas off each other in terms of qualified candidates that maybe the Detroit Lions didn't have openings for example, but the New York Jets will be able to capitalize on. It's a who you know league, right? So Rick Spielman, his various connections, ample experience, the plethora of situations and environments he's been in. I just can't fathom how we've been able to pull off, some of these moves here. This is exactly what I felt like we needed, right? Especially since I wasn't as high on the Rob Patton hiring for co-director of player personnel. This is how you offset a lot of those question marks, right? You bring in the guy that isn't going to quash or quail the decision making of these guys, but he's going to give them all the information they need to make the correct decision, right? And if they do or don't, that's up for discussion, but you want them to have every opportunity to succeed, and Rick Spielman is going to allow that to happen here. Part of the priorities that he'll probably be seeing here in year one, he already mentioned that he may be involved in some of the free agency and draft conversations as well. In fact, he mentioned he'll be hitting the draft and pro day circuits for certain, right? That's definitely a certainty. So I wonder if he'll be in full evaluation mode as part of helping out the scouting staff, or what that all will entail, but will at least have his expertise to lean into there as well. And then one of the final two things that I found really intriguing, didn't really elaborate on these, but he did mention that the perception versus reality for Woody Johnson is vastly different, right? What you have out there in terms of Madden trades being denied and all the other nonsense that came out in The Athletic, there must be a shred of truth to that kind of stuff. But time and time again, Aaron Glenn, Darren, Mougey, now Rick Spielman. And, I would say Rick Spielman is the guy to trust over anybody else, based on how blatant and, forthcoming and truthful he appears to be. But even in Glenn and Mougey's case, all of them have referenced, and maybe this is the new version of Woody Johnson, right? Him shedding a light on himself and looking in the mirror a bit here. But everybody has spoken very highly of Woody Johnson, his commitment to making this team better and allowing his guys to go out there and succeed. So that's also a plus. And I think the hiring in and of itself speaks to the fact that Woody Johnson isn't the deterrent that we thought he was going to be when it comes to finding qualified candidates at any position to come in and help turn things around with the Jets here. And then one of the final things, from a scouting perspective, I didn't necessarily think about this, right? But he mentioned testing scouts on their convictions. And this was just part of an example that he brought up, based on something they were talking about in the podcast. But it's an idea that I really like, right? Not to say that you're necessarily testing guys just for the sake of testing, but let's say you're looking at a Tyler Warren, right? The Penn State tight end, for example, as the number 7 selection. It's up in the air. It's a realistic possibility, but the primary decision makers that are there, they have it in their mind that maybe you want to, drop back a little bit and see if you can still get him. The guys that specifically, the area scouts or the national scouts or, region scouts, the co-director, whoever it is, you want that guy, if he feels like this is a certified talent, to be able to pound the table and let him know, here's the reasons why he's going to be such a dynamic player for us, or the areas we really expect to succeed in, and not necessarily just fold or, fall back in terms of allowing his voice to kind of die down in those conversations. So hopefully we get a lot more of that, right? It's not conversations we're necessarily privy to or even hear, tons of examples for, but I do want us to be highly committed to every draft pick that we end up making a selection for, right? And one of the top situations that jumped to mind, of course, is Zach Wilson, right? When we do finally decide we want to jump into the quarterback pool, whether it's this draft, whether it's next year, et cetera, or free agency, anything of the like, I don't want there to be a situation where, and this doesn't mean everybody has to be in agreement, but I don't want there to be a situation where you have maybe the OC and the head coach that really likes this guy, but you have Darren Mougey that's saying, I don't love it, etc. Right? Everybody should at least be on the same page. And even if you don't love the decision, then everybody moves forward to what does the vision look like to make sure this player succeeds. So with that said, ultimately, Rick Spielman with the Jets is a huge, huge plus. And this can only mean good things, right? This actually makes it worth looking back into Rick Spielman's history, which is a crazy project to try to do. Because again, he's been in here for 30 plus years and kind of see who potentially makes sense in areas of need, right? And we also fully don't know what positions may open up. But with that said, let me know what you guys think about the hiring, and I'll catch you guys again. Peace.